appreciate you taking the time to go through this orientation and to give you a feel for expectations and all. I'm Webb Whistler, I'm the Vice Mayor. Sarah Terwilliger is our Deputy City Clerk. Paulina Mendez is in our Equity Office, and Maggie Burleson is our City Clerk. So just organizationally, basically, Sarah and Maggie are the ones that will be your primary, Sarah is your primary liaison as a member of your boards and commissions. And I already said who I was, right? And why am I here, why am I standing in front of you is organizationally, I am the chair of the boards and commissions group that basically is it's one of our committees that are made up of city council members, and the process in how you were selected is the first sort of vetting goes through the boards and commissions committee, and then we make recommendations to council as to who will, recommendations as to who will serve on boards on the various boards and commissions. It's not that the council votes on you in the aggregate, but you kind of we sort of vet you more intensely than maybe the rest of the council does. I just want to thank you so much for volunteering and your future life as a member of boards and commissions. We really recognize that you're doing a lot to serve the community, and really appreciate that. I'm going to just kind of give you a background from the standpoint of, as a city council member, so we have about 30 boards and commissions. And Sarah will go over with you kind of wired two different kinds of boards and commissions, but some are sort of mandated legally that we have to have those various board and commission. Use this mic? Oh, sorry. And some are really just the city council has formed these boards and commissions, and it's a large number when we compare ourselves to other cities, and we look and talk to them about, well, how many boards and commissions do you have? How many citizen-led groups do you have? And they'll say none, 5, and we're like, we have 30. And it's very reflective of how engaged our citizens are, how many people want to get involved, how many people want to be in an advisory role to the city and to the city council. It's also, I think, a reflection of how much council values citizen input in making decisions. And also, I mean, for me, when I think about the expertise that sits on these various boards and commissions, it's amazing. And so a lot of times you were selected because of your particular expertise or interest in what you bring to the table. And so that experience and opinions are extremely valuable to city council. You are an advisor to basically city council, not to the city, but to city council. You help us, your input gives us guidance relative to policy making. And just as I said, that council committees sort of delve more deeply into various issues. We have 6 different committees that are made up of council members. It's the same with boards and commissions, that you are intending to delve a little bit more deeply into your various issues than council members sometimes have an opportunity to do. I mean, we tend to be a little bit more generalists. We're dealing with not only what is on your agenda, what's in your lap, but then a bunch of other things. So we have a tendency to kind of want to be a little bit more generalist, and we're depending on you to be experts in whatever area that your board or commission focuses on. It also, we're really focusing on diversity on our boards and commissions, so that we're trying to assure ourselves that we're not just in an echo chamber, that we're not only hearing from our friends and neighbors and people that think and are like us, that we're trying to get a lot of diverse voices, so that when we do make policy decisions, it's as well-informed and as diverse as we possibly can be. And then another thing is, I think it helps with, from a standpoint of our governance, that it adds transparency to how we make decisions. I mean, you will know about policy, direction, etc. before the general public, and so you kind of get to lift underneath the blanket and see how we make those decisions and what the thinking was. So it helps our citizenry to understand our process a little bit more, and it adds a level of transparency. And then one of the things that I view you as, you are kind of our microphone out to the citizens. I mean, we want you to be talking to your friends and neighbors, etc., and the rest of the public, so that you're getting the city's message out there too. So not only are you getting input back from the rest of the public, but also we're hoping that you sort of help to advance our message out into the public. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. But if you get nothing else from what I stood up here and talked about, I hope that you heard and you continue to hear how thankful we are and how grateful we are for the fact that you have committed to the city. So, Sarah.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So, hi, I'm Sarah. I'm the deputy clerk. I work very closely with boards and commissions. I'm sure I've corresponded with most of you very recently in the appointment process. And with that, I want to say congratulations again on your appointment, and also thank you for your time, for coming here tonight, and for the countless meetings I'm sure you're going to be going to. So again, this is an orientation for new members. We'll cover a little bit about roles and responsibilities, some city structure, and we'll also hear from Paulina and the Equity and Inclusion team. And then at the end, I hope we have an opportunity just to discuss a little further, and maybe for y'all to just connect as board members from various boards. I want to note that this orientation is very focused on our advisory committees. As Vice Mayor mentioned, we do have various types of committees. They include quasi-judicial, appeal boards, and regional boards. They have very different functions and procedures, so I'm not going to touch on those today. And we're going to just focus on the advisory side, which means you make recommendations to City Council. So each of one of our advisory boards were created by an enabling ordinance or resolution. So if you have not already, please do take some time to take a look at that document. That's the document that created your board, so it'll give you an idea of, one, why it was created, but also some expectations of City Council. And then I also want to make sure that you're all aware of the orientation booklet. I know this probably, or should have went out with your appointment letter. But it's also located on the Boards and Commissions webpage. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is in this manual and a lot more detail. So it's a good resource, and just know that it's on the webpage, that you can always find it there. And in addition to this orientation booklet, you as board members should also be supplementing this orientation for your new members with documents that are very specific to your boards. Again, this is a very general document for all boards. So you might want to include, again, that enabling resolution, any annual reports, or any background information that will help your new members, y'all included, get up to speed as soon as possible. All right, so kind of jumping into roles and responsibilities. All boards and commissions have some level of staff support. There is a management staff liaison. This person has been designated by the city manager. They work very closely with your board chair to develop that agenda for every meeting. They're an excellent resource for city policies and procedures, and no, they won't always know the answer, but they know who to connect with on city staff. They help the board stay within their scope, again, looking at that enabling resolution, and then they provide technical assistance. The city also provides administrative assistance. This includes keeping the website up to date. That's so people can follow along if they can't attend these meetings. They can see what's going on. Agendas, support materials, your minutes should all be posted. This person also keeps attendance, helps with the meeting coordination and setup, and notifies me in the clerk's office of any special meetings and gets your schedules out there, and I'll talk a little bit more about that to come. It is really important to note, though, that staff does not work for or at the direction of the board. However, I'm sure as you all know, they are a great resource for support and guidance. All right, role of the chair. This is a leadership position. This person is responsible for presiding over the meetings to ensure that the work of the board is being accomplished. They also maintain control and order of the meeting and keep the meeting moving forward. So they can do this by eliminating any unproductive or off-topic conversation. They also work again with staff to develop that agenda and approve it before it goes out. They're often the member of contact for the board, so we have the chair listed on the webpage. And they work closely with staff to welcome and orient new members. So if this is a position that you might be interested in, I just want to note that there is also a chair handbook very similar to that orientation booklet on the Boards and Commissions webpage. It talks a lot more about these responsibilities and just some background information. All right, so member duties. Here are just some very key responsibilities for you as board members. First things first, attend the meetings. There is a requirement to attend at least 75% of the held meetings throughout the calendar year. Be proactive, or think about, or do your homework, I would say. Read the materials before the meeting so you're prepared for discussion or to think about any questions. And then being proactive, thinking about your committee issues and what maybe any future agenda items and what can be future discussed. And then advocate and inform. As Vice Mayor Whistler mentioned, you as board members are more exposed and have a better understanding of city procedures and the various programs. So we do ask that you get out there and communicate with your networks to let them know what's going on, and also that these boards and commissions are a great venue to kind of vet policy matters on the front end. All right, City Council Liaison. This is a council person who serves as that direct link with City Council and the committee. This means that they will communicate with City Council as far as any issues or concerns that the board might have, as well as inform you as committee members long-range issues that City Council might be considering that affects your board. This council person is not required to attend all meetings. However, they should be receiving all materials so that way they can stay in the loop of what's going on with the work of the board. They're also an excellent source for procedural guidance and can help advance board recommendations. So when you as a committee are ready with a recommendation, the council liaison can work closely with the city manager then to think about what's the next best stop for that recommendation. Okay, so open meetings laws. All official meetings of public bodies are required to follow these, what we call open meetings laws. Very essentially, it means these three major things: proper notice, open and accessible, and official meeting minutes. The city clerk's office is responsible for noticing all meetings. All of your regular schedules are posted and updated yearly. And then if you should have a special meeting, this is anything outside of that regular date, place, or venue, it does need to be noticed at least 48 hours in advance. And I work very closely with staff. They do a great job letting me know, and we just get that in all the right places. But do take note of that. Also, open and accessible. The public should always have an opportunity to attend, so you can't hold at Greg's house or hold secret meetings. And this is why also, please note that electronic meetings are also prohibited because, again, they are not open or accessible. So on that note, please avoid the reply all on your email chains and keep all deliberations within your open session. These laws are often referred to as sunshine laws, and that's for the reason that the idea is to bring light to the meetings so you can have a better understanding or to show greater transparency and how the decision-making process. All right, so here are some very general guidelines that all boards and commissions must follow. Attendance, again, 75% for the calendar year. A quorum is also required to hold official meetings, so this is a majority of your board members, not including any vacant seats that may be on the board. The board should also act as a body. And term lengths, unless otherwise specified within your ordinance, term lengths are 3 years and you are eligible to serve 2 consecutive terms, plus any unexpired terms that you may be serving. As board members, this is nothing you need to worry about. The clerk's office is tracking these closely, and we also do the appointment process, and so we'll let you know when your term is about to expire. Do note that reappointments are not automatic. We will still advertise for that seat, and it's also at the discretion of City Council, who will review all applicants. And I will note that attendance is definitely one of those things that they're looking at. All right, rules and procedures, often referred to as bylaws. These are rules that are very specific to your board. You do have some flexibility when creating these bylaws. However, of course, they must comply with all applicable laws, state laws, as well as keep the essence of why the board was created. So looking again at that enabling resolution. When you are, if you're looking to draft or revise these these bylaws, me and the city clerk's office or the city attorney's office can help draft, review, or any questions that you might have. And then at the bottom here is just some things that your bylaws might address. So again, very specific to your board, how and when you elect your officers, your chair, vice chair, if there's any specific member roles on the board, any meeting format and procedures that are special to your board, and then also public comment. What does that look like for your board? All right, ethical behavior. As board members, you are required to abide by all applicable rules and laws concerning ethical behavior. Very briefly, this means that you cannot solicit or accept gifts in connection with your board service, use city facilities, personnel, equipment, or supplies for private purpose, or vote in matters in which you have a conflict of interest. I know conflict of interest can be a gray area, especially if you're serving to promote a certain area. If you ever have questions about this, the city attorney's office is a great resource, or you can start with your staff liaison. But if you do know that you have a conflict, and this could include a financial, personal, or occupational, if you have a substantial interest in the matter before you, it is your duty as a board member to bring that to the attention of the entire board, and at that time they can vote to recuse you. If you should be recused for a conflict, it's very important that you don't partake in any deliberations or vote on that matter. And then, of course, this is so that all of our board members are fair and impartial for all the matters that come before you. Oh, and I also want to note that unless you have been recused for a conflict, you do have a duty to vote. All right, so switching back to city council goals. In 2016, council identified these 8 themes, and at that time also 33 goals, and more recently drilled that down to 13 priorities. Each of you as an advisory committee fits into one or more of these identified themes and play a very important role in advancing these goals. Now, city staff uses this vision as well as council's priorities and the committee's recommendations to develop their work plans as well as the proposed budget. Now, the budget is an annual document that reflects council's policy preferences, and ideally which have already been vetted by boards and commissions. And this serves as kind of a roadmap for city staff to implement that council vision we just looked at. The fiscal year is July 1 through June 30th, but it is a year-round process for city staff. They are already starting to look at the fiscal year 20 budget. Really important to note that as a city we have very limited authority. All financial authority comes from the General Assembly, so there is very explicit rules on how the municipality can raise, manage, and even expend revenues. So that's just something to keep in mind when we think about our policy preferences. And then as part of the policy, the budget engagement process this year, the budget team has already made arrangements to come to your November meetings, so they'll be talking a lot more about this budget process and the role y'all play there. So I won't dive too deep into that. And then additionally, as we start this budget process, there will be various community opportunities for you as citizens and as board members to engage and participate in the fiscal year 20 budget. This is just a very brief snapshot of what the general fund looks like right now. As you can see, just half or just over half of our revenues come from city tax, or property taxes, whereas on the other side, expenditures over half, 61%, goes towards personnel. And that is because one of the major functions of the city is to provide services, which is of course very personnel driven. As you'll see, the revenues and expenditures should always be balanced. This is required by state law. And then again, I just want to note, budget team will be coming, so they'll talk a lot more about how this decision process is made and what the process looks like. All right, annual reports. So all boards and commissions are required to submit an annual report at the end of the year, or I should say beginning of the year. They are due on January 30th. They come to me and I compile them for city council. These are a great tool for council to see what you as board members are working on and also your future goals. And this is something they will review before the retreat, which is usually held around February. So it is really important that I get those at the end of the month, or end of January. Some headings include the mission statement of your board, your year's accomplishments, upcoming goals that you have for the upcoming year, policy recommendations, and the current membership of your board. If available, and you won't always have recommendations, that's absolutely all right. If available, it is a good time to put your policy recommendations in there. I want to emphasize policy because you want to avoid doing any monetary budget requests because it is staff's responsibility to evaluate the capacity and the cost of what the recommendation is. So again, you want to focus more on the policy side so that council can decipher what's necessary. And I think that's it for me right now. I'm going to hand it over to Paulina. And she's going to talk more about what the equity inclusion team is doing.
Hi everyone. Hello. How are y'all doing? Good. I'm gonna try that again. How are y'all doing? Good. Awesome. Thank you. So this, I'm gonna full disclosure. This is a little awkward for me because I like to move around a lot. So I'll try not to move too far. But my name is Paulina Mendez. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am the training consultant for the Office of Equity and Inclusion. Racially, I'm multiracial. Ethnically, I am a Latina. And before I launch too far into this, I do want to quickly acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. So just bringing that into the space, because sometimes our Indigenous brothers and sisters get invisibilized. Excuse me. So yeah, I'm super grateful to be here with all of you. I'm really glad that y'all are also here as well. On a, what is it, 6 o'clock on a Wednesday? So yes, thank you for taking the time and volunteering. And I'm also incredibly grateful to be on the equity and inclusion team and to be able to do racial equity work because it's critically important, not just to our underserved communities, but also to our collective good and our communities as a whole. So I'm excited to give you a little bit of a taste of what we're doing in the Office of Equity and Inclusion. But I do want to let you know that we recently opened up racial equity trainings, our 101 and our 201 to boarding commission members. They were for internal city of Nashville staff, but I want to let you know that they're available to you and extend the invitation to attend. I see some familiar faces of some folks that have attended, so thank you for taking the time to do so. So our Equity and Inclusion working mission is that the Office of Equity and Inclusion fosters a fair and inclusive culture across city government, promotes equitable policies, practices, and procedures, and facilitates improved human relations. The piece that I want to tease out of this really quickly is the policies, practices, and procedures, because that is really critical to having equitable infrastructure. Now, what I'll also say is that there is a culture shift that needs to occur, not just within the city, but then hopefully also around the tables that you're sitting around. There's a saying that I've been hearing lately that culture eats policy for breakfast, right? So we want to have equitable policies, practices, and procedures. And we also want to help foster an equitable culture. So this is us. This is the Office of Equity and Inclusion. I want to just introduce our team. We have Kimberly Archie, the Director of Equity and Inclusion. She leads and guides our efforts and supervises our team. We have Yashika Smith. She's the Inclusive Engagement and Leadership Manager. Yashika is the external piece of the team. She works, so much fun. She works with communities that have been traditionally underserved and who may not be organized into neighborhood associations, whether it's because they don't want to or whether they don't have the time or disposable income to do so. And she's also working, I want to let y'all know, on some healing mini grants. So there's some information on our website. So just letting you know, share that information. I am Holly Melendez, the training consultant. I do racial equity training for City of Asheville staff as well as Board and Commission members, and I also help coordinate pieces of our equity action plan. So when people are like, all right, what are y'all gonna do to make the City of Asheville more equitable? I'm like, go look at the equity action plan. That is where rubber meets the road, and there are different buckets that we're focusing on. So the buckets that I help coordinate are, and they're made of interdepartmental action teams, are contracting and procurement, so where we're spending our money, who we're contracting with, so think disparity study, right? Community engagement, who we're engaging, how we're engaging them, y'all are also in that bucket, Board and Commission members, and workforce equity, so HR related stuff, so recruitment, retention, promotion, are we doing that equitably? Then we have Mia Davis, she's the Human Relations Analyst. She does work directly with the Human Relations Commission of Asheville, and she also works a lot with City of Asheville data as a whole. So she helps with collecting the data, helping analyze that. Really excited that she just attended an RBA training, which RBA results-based accountability, a great way of measuring things. So that's something that we're looking into in terms of how we look at the data that we're analyzing. So just a little bit of us. I will also say that as a team, we are available for technical assistance for City of Asheville staff. So sometimes different colleagues will come and help us walk them through a process or help put an equity lens to things. Now that I just said equity lens, which is super jargony, I want to encourage you to attend the trainings. I'll probably be saying some things that you're just like, what is going on? I don't know. And if I do say something, feel free to jot it down. And if you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, I'll be happy to answer that question later. So, diversity, inclusion, equity. We've already heard a little bit about diversity. And diversity is really important, but it's not the end-all be-all. Diversity is about quantity, having identities and different cultures. And why would we need diversity? That's a question.
So it can be
Representation of the whole community.
Representation of the whole community?
Just because, different people have different needs, so you want to make sure everybody's needs are being met.
It's attractive to business. We want to create a better business environment that's not just service and entertainment in Nashville. We want those big tech companies here. We need to be a little bit more diverse.
Sure, so a lot of different reasons, right? Anything else that anyone wanted to add?
Divergent thinking.
Divergent thinking, sure, right? So all of these things, we have complex problems, y'all, and it's going to take a lot of different perspective to solve these problems. So this is one of the reasons why diversity is really important. But you can't really keep or maintain diversity if you don't have inclusion. So inclusion is about quality, right? Inclusion is about participation across identities and cultures. So now you've brought people to your table. Do they feel welcome at your table? Do they feel like they can contribute at the table, right? So this is inclusion. I think a lot of organizations, different boards that I've been a part of, have experienced this issue of like, why are people staying? Like, why are people of color staying? And I would just say, like, look at the inclusion piece. Like, what does that board culture look like, right? And of course, equity is really what we're aspiring to, which is about justice. So having policies, practices, and procedures to ensure equitable outcomes. And all of these things add, so yeah, I just want to stress the importance of, it's more than just diversity. You have to have inclusion, and when those things come together, you can really start focusing on equity and equitable outcomes. Just why we're going to talk about equity versus equality. They're not the same. They're not the same thing. So who can see that and read that for me here at the bottom?
Read. A just and fair inclusion into a society in which all can participate, prosper, and reach their full potential.
So that's our definition of equity. And I just want to point out that equality is about sameness, and equity is about really providing what people need in order to succeed and to thrive. Now, one of the things that I want to point out about this image is that both the images have a sloping ground and have a sloping fence. So what I want to highlight there is that sometimes the reasons why folks are not fully able to participate in our society as it stands now are due to historical reasons, are due to other parts of our identity and who make us who we are, right? We have things like gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, and so on. So I highlight that because we are focusing on bigger policy changes, and that means that we're focusing on institution and organization, bigger and not just like programming, individual, that sort of thing, which I don't want to take away the importance of that, but I want to let you know where we are as an office in terms of elevating that work. Any questions on this before we move on? So I want to give you an idea of the equity framework that we're using. We are members of the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, GARE for short, and this is the framework that we've adopted from them. And so the framework is to normalize, organize, operationalize, and visualize. Right now, as a city, we're very much normalizing. We're a really new department. I think I've been here for under a year at this point. All of our positions are new, right? So we are very much normalizing, which means we're trying to get a shared analysis and definitions, because words mean things. We want to be sure that people are using the right words to explain the same things. And this is about prioritizing and also creating a sense of urgency around all of this. Then we have the organizing piece, making sure that we have internal infrastructure as well as external partnerships and collaborations. So we want to be able to make sure that we're on the same page, and we want to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place to support the work that needs to move forward, which is the operationalizing piece. That means getting into racial equity tools, using data to develop strategies, and really driving the results. So operationalizing equity is where, again, rubber meets the road there. And we have visualizing, engaging community, building momentum, having a shared vision, and some of this has to do with we want to see where we're going, and then we want to be sure that we're constantly evaluating that so we can really make the city of Asheville an equitable and diverse and inclusive place to live. And I will also say, I'm a linear thinker, so in my mind I'm just like, these things have to happen in this order. Well, in this case, some of this stuff is happening at the same time, yeah. So we have our office, but we like to say that equity is everyone's role because we can't do it all, and we want to encourage everyone to kind of to be an extension of the work around the tables that they're sitting around. And so there is our office, but we also have equity board teams. We have interdepartmental action teams. We have people that are in different departments that are really helping us carry this work forward. So, unsurprisingly, inequitable policies equal inequitable outcomes, right? This is why we focus on policies. Does this look familiar to any of y'all in here? I know that some of y'all who have done 101, this should look familiar, but maybe there are some other people what is this a map of? Redlining, I'm sorry.
Oh, say housing authority.
Yeah, so housing authority redlining. So this is just to show, I'm like, and come to 101 for more information. But this is just to highlight how inequitable policies from the 1930s, 1980s, and so on have created inequitable outcomes. Really quickly, redlined areas made it so in the 1930s National Housing Act created inequitable outcomes for people of color and immigrant communities, and also lower socioeconomic status communities, where it made it ineligible for folks to be able to apply for any loans, any of the housing loans that were available at the time. So you can imagine if you live in that area and you're ineligible, even if you're credit worthy, and if you're ineligible to get those loans, that's going to have generational effects, right? I could continue, but that's all I will say about that before I go down that hole. So, equitable policies equal equitable outcomes. And I want to stress the importance of y'all being around this table and learning about equity and learning how to apply a racial equity lens, because y'all do have the ability to advise, right? And so an example that I like to use is the curb cut effect. So who's heard of a curb cut? Okay. Who's heard of the curb cut effect? Yeah, I'm like the 201s have heard about it. But, so tell me what a curb cut is.
It's when you break down the barrier of a 6-inch curb, which is a physical barrier for anybody rolling, walking, in a stroller, even with luggage. And you use it at places of crossing so that people can make a connection.
Yeah, so there are physical curb cuts, right? And then there's also the curb cut effect. So that curb cut, you are breaking that physical barrier down. So in 1968, there was an act that said you have to make government buildings accessible to folks. Okay, that's great, but if people still can't get to the building, you can get inside the building, but if you can't get to the building, like, so what, right? So there were disability activists in Berkeley, California, who in the middle of the night installed an illegal ramp, an illegal curb cut. And over the next couple of years, the city of Berkeley was like, oh, look, pedestrians are using it, moms pushing strollers are using it, people delivering, and they're like, wow, we should install these, we should do curb cuts. And so that's an example of how equitable policies provide equitable outcomes, not just for the folks that are marginalized communities, right? Like people in wheelchairs, we wanted to give folks access, but it also ended up benefiting the rest of the community as well. So when we're talking about equity and we're talking about making those changes, that's what we're talking about and wanting to happen. We should be building relationships. So this work needs to happen across silos. I think in life, in work, and we tend to be head down, get the work going, but really people we lead whole lives. Our lives are impacted by all of these institutions, etc. So we need to make connections across the different boards and commissions that we're working on, across the different departments that we're working in. So hopefully you made new friends, maybe follow up with them, I don't know, but I encourage you to continue to build community and build relationships. And I think that is my time. So yeah, again, Paulina Mendez, reach out with any questions. Happy to help when I can. Thanks so much for volunteering and all that. Yes.
So real quick question, when is the next diversity equity?
Yes. Thank you for that. So your board liaison should know how to get you to sign up. There's a 101 and a 201 that are offered once a month. I think November, and I might need to check on December. I think they might be full. So I will be sending out new dates for January, February, March, and you can sign up that way. Thanks for that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just so the Office of Equity and Inclusion and our Sustainability Office are both, sort of, they're departments that, it's like, they're not the only one responsible for that work. So kind of think of them as underlying all the work and all the policies that are in the city. So it's an equity and a sustainability lens is council's direction. So questions? Anything that, open meetings, anything that is?
So I had a question, I'm totally new to this whole city civic thing. So, like Pauline was saying, is like we need to build relationships. And right now, I'm on the Human Relations Commission, and there is some discussion about us working with CPAC.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, are there other opportunities or like networking events where different members, where different committee members or different commissions can meet together just to, like I said, build relationships?
So there are some boards and commissions that have ex officio, non-voting members from other boards and commissions that sit on office.
Okay.
So like, for example, the Multimodal Transportation Commission has somebody from planning and zoning that sits on it, and someone from the neighborhood advisory, and Bike Ped and Great, those are actually subcommittees of multimodal. But I mean, they literally cross-function that way. And so we've got that. Every year we have an opportunity for all the chairs of all the committees and commissions to have a luncheon, and we try to encourage networking. It is definitely something that we continue to kind of be working on, and like how how does somebody know what another commission's doing?
Right.
And we struggle with that because we don't want to create a bunch of meetings for you to go to, but we do want to encourage that cross-pollination. So any great ideas we've been working on. Talking to my phone, so. Right. And I'll repeat the question. But yeah, would love more. But again, just so you know, just like Sarah said, the minutes and all the documents from every board and commission is on the website. So you can always kind of see what's been going on, as well as you can sign up for the listserv, and the information would be kind of proactively given to you, as opposed to you don't have to go look it up. It's like as soon as a meeting happens, it'll be zapped out to you. That's pretty helpful if you have an interest.
So that definitely answers becoming informed from everybody else is doing, but I mean, literally like relationships, like
Right.
I want to exchange numbers with her just so we can, we're part of different commissions, so we can just like, what's your experience like, things like that. Because one of the things that I do notice in many circles that I'm in Asheville is we talk about needing to build relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be really awesome if somehow the city of Asheville, wanting us to be on the same page and deliver the same messages and things like that, we could actually be within relationship, maybe once or twice a year.
Like an ice cream social.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we actually would, we have been thinking about that kind of thing, and if you think it'd be a good idea, I think we would love to do that. I struggle a little bit with, again, we have this chairman's lunch every year, and like last year, out of the 30, only like 20 of them showed up. So, she's mean, I'm just kidding.
At what point does a social gathering that's casual like that be cross the line into meeting and we're not allowing access to?
It probably would be a public meeting, we'd probably have to notice it.
Okay, it would have to be like on property.
No, it doesn't have, open meetings doesn't mean it has to be on property. I mean, you actually could have it, you could have a meeting at your house, it It's just, you'd have to be willing to, if there's a complete stranger that comes to your house and says, hey, I understand there's a meeting here, you have to be willing to let them in.
Barbecue, right? Let's make this
Do
happen.
it.
Yeah, my committee's gonna throw a party, you're all invited.
Yeah, or, like, you can meet at a coffee shop, et cetera. And it doesn't matter where you meet, it's just, you need to make sure your staff liaison needs to know about it, and, so that we notice it ahead of time. And then the other thing and this is another kind of weird thing about open meetings. Even if it's not like an official meeting, if it's a quorum of your group. So say, for example, you wanted to get together with half of the Human Relations Commission and work on some particular issue. And you kind of want to set up kind of a working group to really delve into an issue and try to come up with solutions. If it's a quorum, you still have to notice that meeting. Okay? Again, I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's the law in North Carolina. And then I did want to talk a little bit about what Sarah said about electronic communications. When we talk about deliberation, like you can send your whole team an email informing them. I could send something out saying, hey, did y'all read this? And I could even give my opinion. I could say, I think it's great information, maybe we should consider this. What you can't do is respond back to everybody and say, hey, I think Gwen just had a really great idea, and I'd be willing to work on this, right? So, like, you could respond back to Gwen individually. You could respond back and say, hey, yeah, I think it's a great idea, sign me up. But you can't. But once you sort of have a dialogue electronically, that becomes an open meeting, and that, by definition, you violated the law because you didn't tell people you were doing that ahead of time, which is what you need to do. I mean, don't get too wigged out about it, but you do kind of have to think about it. And council members, for example, 4 of us can't be together, unless you all know about it. Like, we could go to a party, which that happens every once in a while. We can go to a party and 4 of us can be there, but we can't start talking about policy things. Like, I can talk to the mayor about her kids, but once 4 of us start talking about affordable housing, we've now violated open meetings laws. So you just have to be a little sensitive about that.
So wait, is that only if a quorum of them are discussing this?
Yeah, only if a quorum. Like,
If
I
three of
could,
you talk about it, it would be okay.
exactly. And I mean, I can, right, like in the shower, I have to pray to but yeah, like I can go talk to, and you can talk to another member of your board or commission. It's just once you have more than a quorum or more, then you're in effect holding a meeting, is what the thinking is.
Is any operational funding provided to your boards and commissions, and if it is, what is the budget process for?
No boards and commissions at this point are being funded per se. Now, policies that we implement, the city might would fund, etc. But no, nobody's paid, and I mean, I'm going to tell you like some different things. Like, say, for example, you want to have a retreat, and you've decided you're going to have an all-day retreat. The city probably would bring some food in for you. Or if you said, we really need a facilitator for some meeting, the city might consider that. But on a regular basis, no, it's all kind of volunteer. Well, it's not kind of volunteer, it is. There are a few, so there's, if you're on the school board, which is a board that the city council votes on and appoints. They are paid $200 a month. And ABC, oh yeah, so the Alcohol and Beverage Commission, Alcohol and Beverage Commission Board, they are paid, I don't know, it's like $50 a meeting or something? Yeah. Again, that's legislative, that's mandated by the legislature, that's what you do. And then the Metropolitan Sewerage District Board is paid, the members are paid to go to that meeting too. But beyond that, everything's voluntary.
And all of those are not paid out of the city, they're from revenue from those individual boards.
What if we needed, like a survey, for example? You know, we've seen some analytics run within the community, and we needed that to be funded. Is that something that we could request that could be granted from council, and then you say you guys would do your work and do what you need with the results?
Right, I mean, so what you would do is you make a recommendation to either the staff liaison, to your council member, et cetera, and then, you know, if the city management decided that was a good goal to have, then the city would fund that. Right.
Very good.
Just a suggestion, you were talking about the annual reports that people have to put like their goals and what they're going to be working on. Wouldn't it be interesting if all those goals had to link back to the vision areas and the 13 priority areas? That way you can see all the linkages. I mean, since you've just done all this great work and doing the Vision 2036 and then, you know, carrying it down to the 13 areas, I think it would make it interesting from a both, you know, accountability perspective and then from a results-based accountability perspective to have kind of some measurable goals and outcomes and how those all relate back to those. And then you can kind of see the big picture.
That's a good suggestion. Yeah. Okay, that's a great suggestion.
Is there a standard that agendas need to be posted before a meeting?
Yes. Agendas need to be posted. It's 3 days, 48 hours.
At minimum, 3 days. And this is a city policy, not state, it's not state law. City policy, at least 3 days before the meeting.
3 business days?
Is there business days?
Generally, the weekend can be in there. Depends on when it falls.
And the point of that being, that, you know, you need to tell people kind of what you're going to talk about. And the other thing, I mean, on the opposite effect, is you can't talk about things that are not on the agenda. So, you know, if you said these 5 things and all of a sudden I want to start talking about some completely different policy, you can't do that in that meeting because, again, you know, we're trying, or the idea is you want the public to be able to decide whether they think this meeting is going to be relevant. If all of a sudden, you know, they would really, if all of a sudden you start talking about a policy or a decision or something like that, that the public might have been interested in had you told them. That's the whole thing. And so sometimes your liaisons will say, hold on, we can put this on next agenda, but, you know, don't get into the weeds about something like that or make decisions that haven't been put on.
So it's a good idea, committee member, to bring that up ahead of time so it gets put on the agenda.
Right, absolutely. And a lot of our boards and commissions actually, sort of as a standard, they sort of lay out and say future agenda items and kind of solicit input on that. And it also gives staff a heads up if, you know, if you're starting to ask about something that you need to be prepared for, or, you know, or they need to bring something in from another department or something like that.
What about on the back end, as far as like minutes being uploaded? How quickly should we expect to see those?
Well, so the minutes won't get posted until they're approved.
Okay.
So, so if you have a, you know, if we have a meeting, if we have a meeting last night and Maggie takes all the minutes, she's not going to post those minutes until we've actually said, yes, these minutes reflect what our discussions were. So it would be the next meeting. But the documents that you used and the agenda will stay on the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if one of the board members goes somewhere to a conference or somewhere and you get tremendous information and you perhaps want to bring someone from the conference you went to your board meeting to discuss it? Is that allowed?
I mean, that would be allowed if there's a.
No cost?
Right, I mean, you have to think about the cost, but then we're really trying to stick to, that should be kind of directed by staff, as opposed, so it would be something that should be coordinated with your staff liaison.
But as long as they're okay with it, we
Yeah,
can talk about
sure.
it.
And, you know, and if you want to bring some expert in that's going to give you details about something or give you better insight, yeah, sure.
And the staff could probably help you recognize if it has a broader appeal. It might go under another already existing conference or something like that. Parks and Recreation might have an annual conference that a speaker that you're interested in would also fit into that. Now you can get a bigger audience.
What else?
Why is there no clock in this room?
Why is there no clock? Because, you know, we want to keep you. Right. What I'm wondering is, do you hear like a?
Yeah. Terrible.
I can't figure out what it is. I've been in like four meetings in the last couple days. Like, what is that?
This building was built in 1820.
Probably, well, someone told me that, told me that there are ghosts in this building. Well, so there's a room right behind council chambers, and it's where, when we have closed sessions or things like that, that's where we meet. It's room 209. And it has this old fireplace in it, and it has, you know, all this great woodwork in it. And sometimes I just sit there and think of all the discussions that have gone on in this room. And, you know, you can just imagine back in the 20s, you know, the guys smoking their big stogie cigars and, you know, talking about the city business. It's kind of, I mean, there's so much history in this building that it's kind of cool.
Speaking of that point, how do we organize a tour for this building? Is there one?
You can, it's Ken Merritt, who's in the city manager's office, and he'll give you a tour, and.
You said that's Ken?
Ken Merritt.
I would love that.
He's at the front desk of the city manager's
Right,
office.
he's at the
He's
city,
great.
yeah. He's in the city manager's office on the second floor.
I run an Airbnb experience where I do a 5K historic run through downtown.
Oh, right.
Very little takers. Nobody wants to run the mountains. but
Yeah,
it would be excellent material.
yeah. Well, and we have children come to the building a lot, and so it's fun to have them. And you know, we let them sit at the dais and bang the gavel, so they won't walk up. It's fun. Right. Does everybody know when your meetings are? Have you already gone to your first meeting? Most of you? Okay, good, okay. So you know when your meetings are, you know who your chair is, you know all that, okay. Okay.
I got notified like 2 days before my first meeting that I'd been approved.
Right.
I would hope that you all are working on making that a little better.
Well, so what, we're constrained a little bit by the fact that, so we look at boards and commissions once a month. So if your appointment is, you know, because all the boards and commissions meet at all sorts of different times, sometimes that does happen, but they probably forgave you if you weren't 100% prepared in 2 days. Right.
I was out of town.
Oh, okay. And that happens too. I mean, you know, we want you to go to all the meetings if you can, but we do look pretty hard when, I mean, there's a potential if your attendance is abysmal, that we would reach out to you and say, what's happening? Because, and you know, we might ask you to step down if you you really can't make the meetings. Because that's not good for the rest of the board members, and if you can't get quorum and you can't get business done, we don't want that.
So, I applied for the position, and I didn't really receive anything except for received your application. And then the next thing you know, people are like, congratulations. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, you're on a human relations team. Not.
You should have received an appointment letter with all the information.
Well, okay, so my main thing that I want to bring up is that my name was discussed in a public forum as to whether I would be appointed, and I had no idea. You know, and I'm like, you know, like, I just feel like, and I don't know if there was a step that I missed that I didn't know I was supposed to do, but I just thought that I would know if something like that was gonna happen, and I felt that was definitely a misstep, that it wasn't communicated to me that a decision was gonna be made on this day, and this is the process, and this is what happens, because I definitely would have been there, you know, just for the sake of.
I second that.
Just for the sake of, you know,
Yeah,
process.
exactly. That's good feedback, is that, Sarah could let you know when we're expecting to vote on it. You don't have to be there that night, but, I mean, just so you know that.
But just so you know, I mean,
Yeah.
like, that's random,
Yeah.
It's not like,
Oh, yeah, you just, I heard your name on at city council last night. So,
That gets tricky though, and I completely understand what you're saying. We do hold applications on file for a year, so it could vary. If there's a vacancy at any time, we're gonna pull up all the applications so council can see. So it just depends on when there's a vacancy on the board, and your application will be in front of council.
right, yeah, sometimes it's not, we don't always plan it ahead of time.
right, or even, but not even if you don't get a notification, but knowing that that is indeed part of the process, that your name will be spoken
Oh, okay.
publicly.
At the meeting, definitely.
It's not exactly this, but I do remember getting an email that said like, hey, when this happens, it's gonna happen kind of fast. If it happens, then, pay attention, you'll be expected to like, it's something in an email or an attachment like spoke to the fact that when and if this takes place, it's gonna be like, suddenly you're in.
Yeah, I
So,
don't think I received that, but I will go and check my email.
Well, we can, Sarah and I will work on the process and just, see what we can do to, not surprise anyone. The process is, they put out an advertisement saying, here's some openings. They ask you to apply. Again, it stays open for, usually 6 weeks, right? Okay, a month, okay. So the advertisement is out there for a month, then they get then Sarah gets the applications. She sends it to all of the members of the council a week before the meeting where we're actually gonna vote on that opening. And then what happens is, right before the council meeting, boards and commissions committee gets together and we come up with the preliminary recommendation. And so we have several choices. We can, vote to appoint you. We can say we want to reopen the advertisements. So say we didn't get any responses, which sometimes happens on like highly technical, like electrical engineers. That was open for a year, so it was crazy.
It's open right now.
It's open right now, so if anybody's an electrical engineer. So we could appoint, we could reopen the advertising, we could vote to interview people. And that's pretty much, or that's pretty much the choices. So, sometimes, like say for example, we have, a lot of qualified applicants and it's hard for us to vet it just by looking at your application. What we'll do is we'll interview candidates. I know we did that when the Human Resources Commission was originally formed. Just because we really wanted to get a feel for who was on you know, who was on the original board. So, thank you.
And also those, all the applications and everything are on the city council's agenda. So you can always go to the city's website and see that city council is going to be making appointments for this particular committee. And you can just look to see, oh yeah, I remember I had applied for the public art board and here city council is going to talk about it. And you can click that link and you can see your application, and then chances are the instant you could have gone to that web, checked the agenda and saw, oh, well, the Human Relations Commission was on there. Oh, I think I'll look at that.
Right.
And then you would have known that your name would have come up.
Right, but what I'm saying is that I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah, oh,
So-
that is
so-
something for,
You know what I mean? So from the beginning, it's
Uh-huh.
like, if once I sent in my application, we're like, okay, so this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna do, this is how the process, but like, at least if you tell me, like, how the process goes, and be like, all right, chances are I'm not gonna be available or whatever, but at least I know what's going on.
that's great. And you
No,
know,
I think that's good. If
and
that's-
we do have that procedure down, and I don't know how yours got slipped through, but this is all good information and that we'll put in our standard. It's basically, thank you for applying to this board, and you didn't get any of that from when you submitted?
Like, I actually was under the impression I was gonna have an interview. Like, that's how much I didn't know. about
Okay,
the process.
okay.
So I thought I was
That's
gonna be called
good. We
in and
can-
get an interview, and then people were like, oh, congratulations, like, I haven't done anything.
That's
You wrote a great,
That's good feedback. That's real good feedback.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say that nothing is official yet. That's not like, it was still very much in draft form, we're still very much reviewing it, but we are working on revising the application for board and commission applications. And so that could also be something that's incorporated on the front end, like these are the next steps, that could also be incorporated, after, but yeah, it's good to know. And I also, really quickly, some things have come up as people have been talking with inclusion and board and commissions, right? So I talk about being listened to when you're at the table and all of that, but some other things that could be barriers to inclusion. Where's your meeting being held? What time is your meeting being held? Right? Things of that nature. So just little
Things to think about.
To that point, I was thinking about this last night, actually, when I went to council meeting. I know the county does this, but has the city thought about doing any voucher programs for parking or bus fares to these very important meetings so we can all be inclusive and be involved?
I think it has been discussed. I don't know how far along it's gotten. Part of it is, you know, the county owns a parking deck right beside their meeting.
It's a great
We do not
have.
have.
Be friends.
Yeah, they're not gonna give us.
Or also, it's another way for us to like have more information and have an excuse to use public transportation, so we know what that's
Right,
like.
well, we do own the list, we give you vouchers on that.
Yes.
But we'll maybe talk about that later.
Is there any limit to the number of committees or commissions that you can be on?
Okay, so the question was, is there any limit to the number of committees or commissions you're on? We really try to limit people to one. Now, that is not always adhered to, but because we have an amazing number of applicants, we really try to limit you to one. Sometimes if you have a particular expertise that just, you know, we really want you someplace, we'll put you on two, but generally not. And then the other thing that can upset people is you have to live in the city limits. So we get a lot of applicants for people that, you know, they work in the city, but they don't live in the city. And again, we make some exceptions. Again, if it's a very specialized committee where we really need a particular expertise and we haven't gotten any applications and, you know, we've sort of beaten the bushes a little bit for people inside the city limits, we will not adhere to that salary rule. It's just sort of what we do. But But, so, you know, when people, you know, people will make applications, it's like, you know, we literally check whether you're, you know, that you live in the city limits.
Well, I don't know if that's an exception, but if you're an ex-official member representing an organization, that did not apply.
No, an ex officio, because you're not really a member of that particular meeting. You're just, you know, apparently want to go to double the number of meetings.
I've heard several times you said being notified by a letter. Do you do everything by email? Because I've never received a letter from you all in the 2 years since I applied.
Everything is electronic.
It is electronic. Okay, so when you say a letter, you mean by email?
Yes, thank you for clarifying.
Anything else? Okay, well, again, thank you very much. You know, council members are available if you've got questions. Your liaison, your council liaison is kind of the first go-to person. But if, it's easy to reach out to us. Our telephone numbers and emails are on the website but reach out to us and reach out to Sarah if you've got any questions.